Men are not wired to be with one woman. No matter how much a man loves a woman, he would crave to be sexually engaged with other women. My name is Dr. Z. Welcome to another interesting episode of The Talk with Dr. Z. I will be right back. In this week's episode of The Talk with Dr. Z, we are going to talk about Nigerian legendary singer, Innocent Two-Face or Two-Baba Idibia. We are going to talk about Innocent Two-Baba Idibia because a video of him went viral on social media, specifically TikTok, where he was invited to a podcast and he said that men are not wired to be with one woman. This is not the first time Innocent Two-Baba Idibia made this statement. He said the same thing on the Netflix series Young, Famous and African. I would try and cite that particular clip in this video. However, YouTube is a bit sensitive on the whole copyright thing, so I'll try and make it short. So I will play that clip and I'll be right back.
Like it or not, men are wired like that. A man would love a woman to hell.
100%.
But maybe he's somewhere.
Yeah.
His dick will just decide something.
No, he's mine, not his dick. It's not its own entity.
Okay, however you look at it.
Yeah.
He will fuck.
Even if he's married
But he
and he's
will not
committed.
even give a fuck about that person.
As you can clearly tell from the video, Two-Face is consistent, right? He is consistent with his beliefs that a man cannot be with one woman. That no matter how much a man loves a woman, he is likely to stray because it is in the nature of a man to be polygamous. It is important to mention that Innocent Two-Baba Idibia is currently entangled with 3 baby mamas, okay, including his recent ex-wife, Annie Macaulay, all right? So Innocent has a total of 7 children and he has 5 with 2 other women. One of his baby mama has 3 of his kids and the other woman has 2 of his kids, and Annie Macaulay, his recent ex-wife, they both share 2 kids. Now, in the midst of all that, he has a track record that is proven that he is not a one-woman man. If you want to get the gist of Innocent's life, I think the Netflix series Young, Famous and African does provide a good context into understanding that, because Annie Macaulay provides a window into their past for us to understand the type of man that Innocent Idibia is. Innocent, based on his track record and the number of children he has, we can argue that he is not a one-woman man. Also, it is important to mention that Innocent Two-Face Idibia is not the only man who holds that particular perspective. A lot of African men are not a one-woman man. You see, African men have a polygamous mentality, but very few African men will come out openly and state that they are polygamous and they will practice polygamy. A lot of African men hide and go like, oh, we are monogamous. An African man will date you and go and marry you in the church. Because currently, I come from Ghana, West Africa, and most of the marriages go through the ordinance, and ordinance marriage is monogamous marriage. A Ghanaian man will date you, you will go through the whole process, go through counseling, and most Ghanaians, in terms of registered marriages, occur in the church. He will take you to the church, go marry you, and even at the wedding ceremony, his side chick will be there. Most African men do not have a monogamous mindset. They may not openly say they're polygamous, but their mentality is polygamous. That is the reason why they do not see anything wrong with having side chicks or having multiple women. When I was growing up in Ghana, if you should leave your husband because he had a mistress, It is like, oh, that is how men are. Men tend to have multiple women. So when you leave your husband because he's having an affair or he's cheating, you would be encouraged to stay in the marriage because, oh, it is nothing serious. He just has a mistress. It is nothing serious. In the Ghanaian culture and in the African culture, a man's infidelity, men being promiscuous, men cheating, or men being polygamous is not seen as something that is wrong. And so that culture tends to create an atmosphere where African men tend not to be a one-woman man. Now let's talk about some of the consequences of a man not being a one-woman man. First of all, Innocent has successfully ended up putting his children in broken homes. And when I say broken homes, I mean raising children without the presence of a father, or his children growing up without having a two-parent household. When you say that you're a man and you're polygamous and you can have a wife, but you can still sleep around, one of the consequences is impregnating other women or your mistress, and you end up creating broken homes. And I do not think that African men understand the consequences of their promiscuous or polygamous nature, because you end up creating several broken homes. For instance, Innocent had kids with 2 different women, and those women raised 5 of his kids without the presence of a father, because he was married to Annie Macaulay. So you have successfully created a broken home. Providing for children financially doesn't make you a good father. Being present mentally and emotionally for your children is what qualifies you to be a good father and a good parent. It is not just about the financial provision, it is also about the emotional and the mental provisions that you make. As a man, you need to focus on being present to be able to nurture your children emotionally and mentally. And Innocent clearly has not thought about the fact that 5 of his kids were raised in broken homes, such that those kids may be lacking emotional and mental connection with their father. And just like most African men, Innocent to Baba Idibia has not thought about the consequences of being a promiscuous man or being a polygamous man. I do not think African men fully understand the implications. If you are a man and you consistently choose your sexual desire over you having a stable family where you can be present as a father, you can be present for your children emotionally and mentally, you are a weak man. I am sorry. Real men have sexual discipline. A man who lacks sexual discipline has already opened himself up to be defeated. Men who lack sexual discipline and sleep with anything in skirt, such men are easily destroyed. Because when you're a man and you do not have sexual control, it is over. You become a weak target and you are not able to create a strong lineage. So I do not think that when African men are clamoring, oh, we are polygamous by nature, a man cannot be with one woman, I do not think African men sit to understand the consequences and the repercussions of their polygamous nature. I don't think so, because you end up having kids with a bunch of women and you are not there physically, emotionally, and mentally to nourish those children. And any man with a loose zip who can put his penis in any hole, you're a weak man. And as a result, you will not be able to create a strong lineage. Innocent to Baba Idibia is not the only Nigerian man who is vocal about men being polygamous. I have seen several videos of a Nigerian medical doctor who justifies polygamy with the prostate health of men, and he is saying that the reason why most Nigerian men develop prostate cancer and other health issues is because of monogamy, and that Nigerian men need to ejaculate 21 times in a month to have a healthy prostate and an overall healthy life, and women are not able to give men that opportunity to ejaculate 21 times, and therefore he encourages men to have a side chick. I am going to play a short clip by the medical doctor. I think his name is Dr. Rashid Abbasi. Hopefully, YouTube does not censor it as a copyright video. I'll be right back.
One of the things men are facing, especially black men now, is the issue of prostate problem. And when you localize it to Nigeria, is the issue of cardiovascular problem, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart attack, stroke. These two conditions can be reduced, the risk of which can be reduced significantly if you allow your man to have side chick. The side chick will save the marriage. Number one, it allows the man to get rid of his excess testosterone. It allows the man to reduce his prostate problem like enlargement and prostate cancer. And of course, heart attack and stroke.
What are your thoughts on the viewpoint of Dr. Abbasi and how men should have side chicks because they need to ejaculate 21 times to be able to have a healthy prostate? Now, I am going to react to some of the comments that men were posting under a video where Dr. Rashid Abbasi, he's a Nigerian medical doctor, and he owns and runs an all-male clinic. I am going to react to comments that were posted under a video where he was on a show and he was being asked to shed light on his whole campaign for men to have more than one woman because of their prostate health. And so you know, most of these comments were by African men. Now, one dude said, this man needs to be protected at all costs. Another dude said, I have sent this video to my wife. You see, African men glamorize polygamy because they just want to be able to have sex with multiple women. African men don't understand the responsibilities, the psychological toll, and the mental strength it takes to keep more than one woman and have children with more than one woman. African men don't understand that every time the concept of polygamy comes up, African men are just thinking, oh, I have a free pass to sleep with more than one woman. They do not think about the consequences of sleeping with more than one woman, which is having children with more than one woman, and how they are going to financially, emotionally, and mentally invest in those children and in those women that they have children with. And so for me, when I see all these comments, I laugh. African men want to just sleep around in the name of polygamy, but they do not think about the consequences of having children with multiple women. Another man in the comments said, them no debate with women about facts and reality, implying that women are emotional, and so the doctor is debating facts, but the women that was on the panelist asking him to explain are being emotional. And that has been debunked a lot. Every time we are talking about issues, especially polygamy, men go like, oh, women are emotional. Women are not emotional. Men are the ones who are always emotionally triggered. A lot of African men clamoring, oh, we are polygamous by nature. But a lot of African men are broke. A lot of African men do not even have the financial resources to take care of one woman. When you look at surveys on income contributing family workers, I can say in the case of Ghana, when I looked at the Ghana Living Standard Survey 2019 report, more women are income contributing family workers compared to men. Women contribute income to the home more compared to men. So if most of you men are struggling financially, how do you want to sustain polygamy? And that is the reason why I say men remain the most emotional gender, because they claim to be logical, but they do not think about the consequences of being polygamous. They do not think about the repercussions, the emotional toll, the mental toll, and the financial investment it takes to run a polygamous family. They only think about their sexual pleasure, and therefore men are making decisions from an emotional place, from a place of sexual pleasure, and not necessarily thinking about the implications of having more than one woman and having children with multiple women. Another comment said, this doctor must be protected by all means. Another dude said, knowledge is power. Another dude called Sean Paul commented, this man need to be our president. And Kobe said, this is a matured conversation. It is not a matured conversation. Anytime we're talking about polygamy and men having more than one woman in the African context, it is not a matured conversation. One of the things that triggers men a lot is when we start talking about financial capacity. A lot of men, especially African men, do not have the financial capacity to sustain a polygamous lifestyle. So it is not about having a matured conversation, because a matured conversation would entail making sure that as a man, you have the financial capacity. That is the baseline, having the financial capacity to sustain more than one woman and having the emotional and mental capacity to nurture the children that come out of your polygamous relationships. But that is not a conversation most men are able to hold and to even make an intelligent contribution. But they are always on social media clamoring to be polygamous by nature. I am just saying. A final comment by one Nigerian dude indicates that doctor was being factual while the interviewers were unsurprisingly emotional. The interviewers were women. And I am going to end on this note. Dear African men, if you want to be polygamous, you need to have the capacity to be polygamous. Polygamy is not about sleeping with more than one woman. Polygamy is about taking financial responsibility for more than one woman and having financial responsibility towards the children that come out of you sleeping around with more than one woman. Polygamy involves being emotionally and mentally present to be able to nourish your children. And so if you do not have the capacity, please stop clamoring and singing that, oh, men are polygamous by nature. A lot of you just want the license to sleep around, but you do not have the capacity. African men do not have the financial capacity, the emotional capacity, the mental capacity to nurture a polygamous marriage. That is the truth. And I'm just being honest. And I'm not saying all African men. Averagely, the majority of African men do not have the financial capacity, the emotional capacity, and the mental capacity to be able to nourish and sustain polygamous marriages or relationships. I'm just being honest. To conclude, innocent Tubaba Idibia had to render an apology after saying what he believes. And people think that his new wife, Natasha, is controlling him. I think Two-Face has met his match because he said the same thing in the Netflix series Young, Famous and African in front of Annie Macaulay, and he did not come out to apologize. Annie has consistently defended Two-Face, Innocent Idibia during the time they were married. I'm not saying Annie is perfect. The new woman that Two-Face is with doesn't tolerate that, and he came out and he gave an apology, and the apology seemed like he was being coerced or forced or manipulated to do that. As a result, a lot of Nigerian men came out in protest, and they are concerned about Innocent's mental and emotional state. I believe that Innocent Tubaba Idibia has been consistent when it comes to his take on being a one-woman man. He does not believe in being a one-woman man. He believes that a man can love a woman, but at the same time crave sleeping with other women, and that is fine. Innocent is not the only African man that holds that mindset. I can confidently say that the majority of African men, the overwhelming majority of African men, hold the same perspective as Innocent Tubaba Idibia. Most might not just say it publicly, but most African men are not a one woman, man. My name is Dr. Z. Thank you so much for spending time with me. What are your thoughts on this particular topic? Please do not forget, engage with me in the comment section. I want to read your comments, and take care of yourself. I would see you on the next episode of The Talk with Dr. Z. Until then, if you would like to subscribe, hey, you can hit the subscription button. I will see you in another episode. Do take care of yourself. Until then, bye.